How do you go from total emotional breakdown and collapse post narcissist abuse or even while you're in it to empowerment and beyond? I'm standing behind these bars literally as a physical, visual representation, a metaphor of being trapped in some type of emotional jail or hell as a result of toxic abuse from a narcissist, maybe from the remaining scars of your childhood. But there are 5 basic steps that you have to go through in order to go from pure breakdown and grief to empowerment and beyond. Let's start with the grieving phase. It is inevitable. The only way to heal and recover is you have to allow yourself to grieve. That might mean staying in bed for days, for weeks at an end, curled up in a ball. It might mean crying your tears away. It could mean a lot of things, but you have to face and allow that process, that phase to happen. Don't fight it, don't deny it. Allow yourself to grieve. That pain, that sense of loss from the narcissist abuse has to be purged. It has to be processed. It has to be filtered. Be intentional with your grieving. Yes, I am grieving. I'm going to allow myself to cry. Be very intentional or mindful. Be very mindful about the grieving. And then as I started to feel a little bit better about myself, I stepped into what I call the informative phase, where I started to seek understanding, like what happened to me. One really good book, Grief and Recovery. One of the first pieces of literature I was introduced to help me navigate my loss, my inner torment, my survival from the darkest chapter that I could have imagined. I could have never imagined would ever happen to me. And it was the darkest, most brutal chapter where I completely lost myself. I completely gave up on life. I went so dark, I tried to take my life. So when I talk about these things, I'm not bullshitting you with the sense of, oh, I read this in some romanticized book and now I'm sharing it as a fantasy thing. I lived it and went through the dark night, the darkest of nights, and I'm now sharing with courage and vulnerability, but also ownership. I own my story. I own my story. That's a part of the recovery, is you got to own your story. But anyway, go down that rabbit hole of seeking knowledge and wisdom to understand. I spent endless hours going down the YouTube rabbit hole looking for understanding. What is a narcissist? How do they behave? What do they do? Who am I? What part did I play? How can I prevent this from happening moving forward? I went down that rabbit hole years and years and years, and gradually, through that knowledge and that wisdom, I found understanding. And through that understanding, I could then go to the next level, which was truly becoming. Make sure to like, follow, and subscribe, whichever platform you are viewing this reel from. You've gone through the grieving phase. You've gone through the informative phase. You're now wise and knowledgeable. And now you go to the empowerment phase, where now it's the application of your knowledge and your wisdom for a better life. Empowered means you are no longer in victim mode. You are in a mental, emotional, and spiritual position to apply and implement the painful lessons you learned. You are fully aware. You fully understand what happened to you. You also understand your role, and you acknowledge and accept your role. You own the situation. You have now minimized the hurt and the anger, and perhaps the need for revenge. You have found peace. The suffering has subsided. You have regained your soul. You have reconnected with you. It may be a new you, but it's you nonetheless. You are now ready to move on and begin to not only live again, but thrive. You embrace who and what you are. You now know it's a gift, but only if and when you leverage the neurodivergent aspect of your being. You are different. You are unique. That's the ultimate form of empowerment. And then we have phase number 4, what I humoristically call the WTF phase. What the just happened? It's where you're confused, it's where you regress, it's where you thought you had it all figured out, you thought you were on path, you'd found yourself again, you'd overcome the narcissist, you had won the battle, and then some way, somehow, you find yourself grieving again, you've been triggered, maybe the narc has creeped back into your life, You put down your boundaries, you work so hard to become this new version of you, and the next thing, that's the WTF phase. Again, embrace it, navigate it, be intentional. I'm grieving again. I'm going to be intentional and get back to where I need to be. And this phase potentially happens like this. Healing is not linear. Healing is not linear. Allow that to be. Go through phases 1 through 5, back and forth. And hopefully you'll go through phase 1, 2, 3, 4, and then maybe you'll go back to phase 1. Then the next time you may only go back to phase 2. But remember, along that journey, don't beat yourself up if you go back to phase 1 and grieve again and get triggered. Don't beat yourself up. However, in stark contrast, celebrate each time you make progress. Celebrate each time you make progress. And then the next phase is really becoming a conscious, if you're an empath, becoming a conscious empath. Now that expands beyond the self. You've now taken care of yourself, you've grieved, you're informed, you're empowered. Now the conscious empath is the one who now starts to really create ripple effects across society by promoting and sharing the message of what it means to be kind, what it means to share your inner light, to inspire and empower others, to protect the weak, to be a voice for injustice. That's what being a conscious empath really is all about. You've got all this information, you've got this beautiful, powerful light, and now you share it with the world. Go out there, make a difference, keep shining, keep being the beautiful empath that you are, knowing that it is an arduous journey being an empath. You attract the narcissist, you attract toxicity, you're taken advantage of, you're abused, all because of your kind goodness. You're also envied because people want a part of that inner light that you have. Go out there, keep making the world a better place. And also the last comment is, make sure along that journey, every facet, you always implement empathy for yourself.